I heard you saying over there that you consider yourself to be the best player in the draft. Does it bug you that it always seems like it's got to be a quarterback who's the number one pick, no matter what the other guys can do?
Nah, that's just what it is. That's what always has been. But I feel like if you look at my film, from a defensive standpoint, the way I can take over a game, I feel like in college football you haven't seen a lot of people that can take over a game like I have, and I feel like my tape just speaks to me being the best player in the draft.
Chaisson, Ohio State pass rusher and one of the budding superstars who I think would agree, because I had a conversation with him about this, he would agree with me that none of this is an honor. None of it is a privilege. It's a privilege for a team
you're
to have
crazy.
his services. And it will be. I'm telling you, I've had the conversation with him. He gets it. It's not an honor for a team to want him. It's an honor for a team to get his services and for a team to have him on the roster because he's special. And he's special because I assume, is your top edge rusher for the draft. Tell me about Chaisson based upon what you've seen from him.
Yeah, you're right. Well, he is special. They're just, again, Mike, one of my favorite lines with people like this, there's just not a whole lot of people walking around planet Earth that are built the way Chaisson is, and then can move and explode off the line of scrimmage the way he does at 265 pounds. The strength he has, he's got the strength of a 300-pound defensive end. There's really no weakness to his game as far as physical traits are concerned. And then you go, oh, there's a rawness here still to his game to where he can improve, right? He's not as well-schooled of a pass rusher as like Nick Bosa was coming out last year. But I think he's an overall better athletic specimen than a Nick Bosa. And that's what's awesome. When you have an athletic specimen that's special, a guy that has all the physical traits to be special, to continue to add to that, and then has room to grow, and a coach can mold him a little bit, that's where he's special. And yes, Mike, he's slam dunk, from what I've seen, yes, he is probably the best player in the draft at this point. I don't disagree with what Chaisson has said.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, somebody's going to end up with a great, great player. They just keep manufacturing at Ohio State University.
Yes, they do.
Players. Now, they're attracting them, but they are turning them into dominant forces, and especially along the defensive line. And Chaisson is going to be a difference maker as a rookie. And it was great to talk to him at the Scouting Combine. That was just a week or so before the world turned upside down due to the coronavirus pandemic. Chaisson of LSU. A very colorful personality, a guy that I spoke to as well back when you were on the injured reserve list with whatever it was that you had in Indianapolis.
I hope it was Corona. I'm still hoping. I want to get the antibody test. I really am. I'm hoping it was that, and I got it out of my system. I don't know, but sorry,
anyway,
go ahead.
He's number 2 on your list. How big of a gap do you see between Young and Chaisson?
I don't think it's as big a gap as what I see just as far as mock drafts and things like that. Mike, Chaisson is one of my favorite players in the draft. He is the most naturally gifted pass rusher in the draft. And, I say that, when you talk about exploding off the line of scrimmage, being able to bend around the corner like the great ones, like a Lawrence Taylor, a Von Miller, a Derek Thomas, he has some of those body movements that are very special, along with being really physical and strong for a guy that's, not gigantic, 6'3", 256 around there. But Mike, this was one of my favorite watches in the whole draft. I think this guy's kind of being underappreciated a little bit as far as, the love he's getting. I think, listen, my rationale would be this. I loved Brian Burns last year. He was the number 15th pick for the Carolina Panthers. Vic Beasley was the number 7 pick for the Atlanta Falcons coming out of Clemson. Chaisson is a top 15 talent. There's no doubt about it. I would sit here and argue he's a top 10 talent. I think he's a really special pass rusher. You saw the personality. I hear great things about that. He wore 18 at LSU, which means he's, one of their great leaders of their football team. So that speaks to what he is off the field. But man, Mike, talent-wise, this is one of my man crushes of the draft. And you know what he has great pair of, Mike? His legs and butt are special, which is why he can run around the corner running 4.4 with a 300-pounder on his back and still get to the quarterback.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What they look like in person, those two guys, Mike. Just when you saw Chaisson and Chaisson, I'm so disappointed I didn't get to see more of them and be close to them. I was like in the room with them at one point, but never got to get really close. What was your take of just how they were built and what they looked like?
Well, when they're in the room,
it's hard.
They're wearing baggy clothes. They're not wearing the same underwear that you see during the workouts. So, I'm more focused on having a conversation with the guys, not putting my giant meat hook hand on their leg to see how big it is like you would have done.
Yes, I got to get a little touch and feel in there just to make sure what the muscle density is. But it's a good group, okay, as far as pass rushers. There's a little more depth at the position as far as the edge pass rushers. There's a few other guys here. Had the A.J. Epinesa kid from Iowa. He had an underwhelming combine. But, man, Mike, when I watch him play, he's not a sexy sack machine type, but he's a guy that's a strong side defensive end. The guy who can take on the tight end tackle double team and certainly have enough strength to handle a tackle one-on-one and do things like that. This is a really good football player. In theory, he could be like a Michael Bennett or a Tyrone Crawford for the Dallas Cowboys. Play defensive end on first and second down, probably move inside on third down and be a mismatch for guard in the passing game. So he's a really good player, too, who I think is a first-round player. His numbers at the combine don't show that, but his play on the field and film shows he's more explosive than what the combine numbers were, and he's very disruptive and makes a whole lot of plays. So, I look at him as being a guy who has New England written all over him. I feel like he's that type of player that could do multiple things for that Belichick defense in the front seven.
And the bottom line is the most important positions for an NFL team continue to be quarterback and guy who chases quarterback.
Definitely.
And every once in a while, we kind of forget the value of a great pass rush until a great pass rush carries a team to a championship. And then we're like, oh, yeah, probably a good idea to have a great pass rush. But I think most teams remember that all the time, Chris.
Yes, Mike. Well, I mean, that's the predicament I'm sure the Washington Redskins are in a little bit right now. Hey, it's the number 2 pick. I'm sure there's some teams that are interested in Chase Young or other players that are in the draft that they might want to trade up for. And the Redskins, who have 3 first-round D linemen on their front line already, now they can add Chase Young. And, if you're them, Mike, what do? Do you just go and go, hey, I'm going to have 4 just super freaks on the defensive line, and we're going to win some games with that, or, would you trade down? I wouldn't pass up the opportunity to take Chase Young and have him opposite of Montez Sweat or Ryan Kerrigan, and then the 2 Alabama boys in the middle. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch for in the draft, especially if there's some clamoring for the quarterback, jockeying for that position with Herbert, maybe Tua, who I don't think, I don't think is worth the number 2 pick or a top 10 pick, in my opinion. But it'll be interesting to see if there's some action there for that spot when all's said and done. But Mike, I love this Chaisson. He's one of my favorite guys in the draft.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.